Hey, what's going on, guys? So we're here to show off the new Aegis of Valor Crusader set, going over the best build for Crusader going into Season 19 of Diablo 3. And on top of that, it actually has been changed from the PTR. So originally this was a Fist of the Heavens build, but now it is a Heaven's Fury build. We're going to be utilizing Heaven's Fury Fires of Heaven, and that's how we're going to get all of our damage because of the new multiplier with this 6-piece set bonus. You can still try to use Fist of the Heavens, and that will carry you definitely up to T16, no problem. But if you're looking to push over 100 on the GR, you're really looking at a Heaven's Fury build. But let's go ahead and get you guys some gameplay, and then I'll explain everything in depth. I'll show you guys two different builds. One, if you're interested in just doing the higher greater rifts, which is what I'm going to be showing off now. And in addition to that, I will showcase off a build if you're interested in doing T16 speeds with this new set, which is basically just going to come down to more mobility. So what we're utilizing here is just the bonus damage and also the damage mitigation from the set. So we're going to try to get our 50 stacks over here really fast, and then we're going to go ahead and just basically spam on our Heaven's Fury. That's what's going to give us all of our damage, which is quite nice. And we have a lot of resource cost reduction, so again, we're just hitting for like billions and billions of damage. Once you start to notice that you will be moving slow, that's because we're also utilizing these new gloves, which are going to actually reduce our movement speed and our attack speed. But with the Aegis Champion, we're going to basically negate all of the downsides with that. So it's a relatively slow build, honestly, but all you need to do is just cycle between Fists of the Heavens. Make sure you have those stacks up over here where you're getting that bonus damage, and then you just need to walk forward and melt things. Like I said, once you start noticing you're moving slow, you can also utilize Iron Skin, and that will break the turning to stone theme that is proccing courtesy of the stone gauntlets. You'll see that we're moving very slow, but if we pop Iron Skin, that is going to mitigate that, which is quite awesome. So like I said, make sure you got those 50 stacks from the set bonus to get that damage reduction. And then also, you want your Fist of the Heavens to actually get damage, because that's going to make your Aegis of Fury proc, and that's going to give you the ability to do more damage. So let's go ahead and go back into town. Now that you guys can kind of understand the basics and the gameplay here, it's a relatively straightforward build. Just make sure you also use Fist of the Heavens once in a while with the Aegis of Fury, because that's how you're going to get all of your damage with your Heaven's Fury. But now that you guys have seen some gameplay, let me go and actually explain some of the other things that might not have been explained. So let's go ahead and hop right into the skills first. So like I said, this is going to be a greater rift pushing build. However, you can make some minor adjustments here to make it more of a speed build. So first off, let's go ahead and go over the greater rift push variant. So first off, as far as skills go, you want the Judgment with Debilitate, and that's going to make it so enemies are going to be immobilized, and then they'll also deal reduced damage. This is actually for your bracers, which are going to be the Bracers of Fury, which makes it so Heaven's Fury deals up to 400% bonus damage against enemies that are blinded, immobilized, or stunned. Now, you can utilize this, or people are using the Shield Glare. That can also be an option. In fact, some people have been using Shield Glare as well as the Judgment Debilitate, but Iron Skin is also another great skill, and a lot of people that are pushing the leaderboards are using Iron Skin and the Debilitate. It kind of goes up to what you like for your playstyle. But as far as Conviction, you want Aegis Champion and Prophet. That's going to give you some extra damage reduction with that 150% additional armor, which is actually going to work quite well with your Stone Gauntlets. For the Iron Skin, you can actually use two different things. Here's where we get into some of the builds that are going to be swapping different runes. So we can see we have Iron Skin Flash, and this is going to make it so you ignore unit collision and also tactically move a little bit faster. Some people are using this not only to go through units, but you get the additional movement speed, so it kind of makes things a little bit faster. However, if you want more of a lazy build to proc the extra bonus damage, you can run Charged Up. Again, take your pick with this. It doesn't really matter as far as which one you pick. Maybe you want this for extra movement speed. Maybe you want this for the extra proc chance to stun, which again is going to give your Bracers of Furies that chance to proc. And then we're going to go ahead and run Fist of the Heavens Fissure. Even though we are spec'd to get bonus holy damage, the Fist of the Heavens Fissure, the reason why we picked this one is because in between the Fist of the Heavens, there's going to be an arc. and in between this arc is basically just going to proc things a little bit faster. That's why most people are picking this, but honestly it doesn't really matter too much. You guys can pick whatever one that you want, but this one technically is going to be one of the better choices. Now with Heaven's Fury, you want the Fires of Heaven. This is basically the shotgun build all over again, which is basically what we're going to get majority of our damage. But you don't actually have to cast it because we actually happen to have Ivory Tower, where it makes it so blocks release forward a Fires of Heaven, and that's going to give us our other way of actually dealing damage without actually using Heaven's Fury, which if you max out on your block chance, that's going to go up to 75% chance that every single time that you're hit, you're going to be activating this anyways, but it just gives you that additional chance to activate it. Or maybe you debilitate people over here, so that's going to go ahead and immobilize them, and therefore if they're melee, they're not going to be hitting you in the first place, so you can utilize this at range. But the range is relatively short anyways. But you do want to get as close as you possibly can, because if the unit is large enough, you can hit them potentially multiple times with this. And then we're running the Laws of Valor Unstoppable Force. This is going to reduce the wrath cost of all skills by 50% by 5 seconds. Now, one thing to mention, if you don't happen to be able to keep this up most of your time, basically if you're running out of wrath, you can actually utilize the Long Arm of the Law instead of Holy Cause. These can kind of be swapped in and out here. And if you run Pig Sticker, you can actually, instead of Heavenly Strength, you can obviously run the Fervor, and that's going to actually give you increased attack speed. There's two kind of different builds here that I will kind of get into as far as the weapon choice when I go over the build. But as far as our passives go, pretty much it's going to be either Long Arm of the Law, or it can actually be the Holy Cause, because this is going to give us extra damage and give us a little bit of extra healing. And then we want Hold Your Ground, so we can get 30% chance additionally to block, which is going to proc our Heaven's Fury with our shield. And then we have Heavenly Strength in this case, but again, if you happen to run a one-hander, which I'll get into, which is basically the Pig Sticker, you can actually obviously go for Fervor here, and then it's always going to be Finery. As far as what we're looking for on our gear here, so as far as our gear goes, we actually don't need to run Fist of the Heavens bonus damage. You actually can roll that off to life, because our damage is actually coming from Heaven's Fury. So don't look for Fist of the Heavens on your helm or your boots. What you actually want to do is on your chest as well as your shoulder, roll Heaven's Fury bonus damage. And then pretty much the same stats that you're looking for in almost every single Diablo build, which is going to be crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and then cooldown reduction, and then main stat for most of them. That's what you're looking for. You can also, if you happen to get something that has reduced all resource costs, that is technically a form of damage mitigation, because we're running the Captain set as well, throwing in those diamonds for extra damage reduction because more resistances. But if you are just doing T16 speeds, I'm going to recommend running rubies if you're not one-shotting everything for these speed builds over here. But yeah, you're looking at all of the pieces for your set, all 5 pieces plus the Royal Ring of Grandeur. That's how you're going to be able to utilize the Captain set as well as the Aegis of Valor set. But pretty much, like I said, you're looking for the same stats that most Diablo builds will be looking for. There's nothing very specific other than on your shoulder and your chest, you want Heaven's Fury. That's where you're going to get the bonus damage. Don't look for Fist of the Heavens damage. You can do T16 runs with Fist of the Heavens, but again, if you're looking to push Greater Rifts, that's where you're looking for. And then with the Bracers, you're looking at the Bracers of Fury, but if you're doing speed runs, you definitely want to pick up some Nemesis because that helps out quite a bit. For our rings, here's where we get into some options and amulets. So I'm running a Hellfire amulet over here. However, you can technically run the Traveler's Pledge set, or like the Compass Rose. You can run that as well. You can also run the Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac and the Convention of Elements. Alternatively, depending on what your shield rolls for your block chance, you can also run the Justice of Lantern. This actually does 2 different things. So on the secondary, it gives you damage reduction equal to 52, well, it technically rolls up to 55% of your block chance. So this is going to give you some more survivability, plus on the primary, you actually have up to a 16% chance to block. And remember, guys, when you are blocking with the Ivory Tower, whether you have it equipped or in the cube, you're going to be able to release those Fires of Heaven. And a lot of times, if you're pushing Greater Rifts, you actually want to run the Shield of Fury or the Ivory Tower. Either one can be in the cube, it doesn't really matter. But the Shield of Fury, definitely if you're pushing for higher Greater Rifts, because it has a secondary ability. Each time an enemy takes damage from your Heaven's Fury, it increases the damage they take from your Heaven's Fury by 30%. So it's just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger, and then essentially it's kind of like the Bane of the Stricken. So kind of acts like that. So this is definitely going to be great, and it actually might be competitive for like the 4-man groups for just like a Rift Guardian killer. But like I said before, you can alternatively run, I know this is Carly's point, but the pig sticker is a really good option to run instead of your Fate of the Fell, which is what we have equipped over here. This is going to make it so Heaven's Fury allows you to get those extra 2 rays, and it also increases the damage by 375 to 500%. Depending on what you get, you can actually cube this. Because the numbers are so far away, I mean, 375 to 500 is a big jump in its range here. But yeah, but pretty much, like I said, you're looking at the 6-piece set in the cube. You're really looking at putting either the Shield of Fury or the Ivory Tower in, and then run Pig Sticker, and or you can run Fate to the Fell. In my instance, I'm running Messerschmitts because I don't reach the cooldown threshold for our Akarat's champion, because you also can run in the cube, because in the cube we have the Stone Gauntlets, as you'll see, which is going to give us extra armor. So it says getting hit increases your armor by 50%, but reduces your movement speed by 15% and attack speed by 20%. This stacks up to 5 times. So the downsides of this doesn't exist if you are in Iron Skin or if you're in the Akarat's champion. So that's why we need those thresholds. Messerschmitts can be an option, again, at lower levels if you don't happen to have the cooldown threshold. Even though I'm running Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, it definitely helps out quite a bit. But like I said, if you're doing high Greater Rift pushes, swap out Messerschmitts for this if you meet those cooldown thresholds, because that's one of the most important things. Otherwise, you can just rip really fast, and on top of that, you don't want to be moving around any slower. And then Roller Ring of Grandeur. You can also technically equip any of these in combination with any things that we mentioned, like Convention of Elements or the Traveler's Pledge and Compass Rose. And alternatively, for the amulet, if you do not want to run a Hellfire amulet, you can also run the Flavor of Time. This is really great for Greater Rift pushings. This is a little bit of RNG though, because you have to obviously get the pylon, but if you want to push the highest Greater Rifts, you got to get those lucky rifts, and the Flavor of Time is definitely by far the best slot in the amulet department for potentially getting those lucky rifts. But now going into other things that you guys can run if you guys are interested in doing a speed build. So what I recommend for speed build is actually dropping the Iron Skin as well as the Judgment. Obviously, you'll have to get to the point where you're going to be strong enough to where you don't need to activate these. And since you'll be dropping your Immobilize, you can actually drop your Bracer of Fury and just do Nemesis because it's for speed, right? And then on top of that, the 2 skills that will give you the highest amount of mobility are going to be Steed Charge, so you can also run like a Lord of the Commander in the passives, and just run the one that's going to increase your duration to 3 seconds instead of 2. Again, this is just for speed pushings. And then what is it? Yeah, Lord Commander is going to increase where is it? The cooldown of Steed Charge is reduced by 25%. So basically, you can spam it a little bit more often if, again, you don't meet those cooldown thresholds. If you already meet the cooldown thresholds, then by all means, you don't have to run that passive. But in addition to that, one thing that I really like to cross gaps. So like I said, we're dropping, let's say, Judgment for the horse, and then instead of Iron Skin, because we don't really need those defensive stats. Also, you'll have to drop Stone Gauntlets if you don't meet those cooldown thresholds to keep this up 100% of the time. But in addition to that, I really like Falling Sword. This is simply due to crossing gaps. Falling Sword, and you want the Rapid Descent. This is going to increase the availability of it because you reduce the cooldown by 1 second for each enemy hit by it. But basically, again, just crossing gaps sometimes can be nice if you're just doing speed pushings. But anyways, guys, yeah, that is the build currently. And as far as the gems go, here's what we're looking at. A lot of people are opting for the Esoteric Alteration. We're also looking at the Gogok of Swiftness and Bane of the Trapped. Now, those are the ones that are considered most of the meta ones. However, I've seen different builds utilize Pain Enhancer as well, because it's going to give you that extra speed for your Heaven's Fury, because it's a relatively slow build because you are running a 2-handed flail. I mean, just looking at the leaderboards over here, it's pretty much just this build. And if we look at the highest tier right now, Crusader is doing pretty good, so I want to go ahead and back up my claim. Previously, Barbarian via the PTR would have been the best, but I think at the moment we're actually looking at Crusader clearing the highest, and there's multiple. Sometimes there'll be one person with a very, very high Paragon level, and people will just say, oh, it's just because of the guy's Paragon level. But no, right now, currently, the Crusader is pushing the highest via the leaderboards. But hopefully this video helped you guys out as far as building your Crusader for Season 19, and hopefully it'll be coming out probably about next week, I want to say, is when we'll be getting this. But technically the update is available right now if you guys want to go ahead and try to just have some fun and maybe get your builds ready and start theory crafting. But as far as theory crafting, there's one thing I did want to mention. If you want to proc your Bracers of Fury instead, because you get so much extra damage, I mean, we're talking up to 400%. This is like the one area where theory crafting could be a thing. Zystone of Vengeance has a 20% chance to stun the enemy, and if you are going to be able to have your Ivory Tower block fast enough, you can hit the enemy so fast that you can guarantee that stun without activating these, and then this could potentially open up the doors for maybe swapping out Debilitate. You're probably going to want Iron Skin again. It just really helps out with the Stone Gauntlets. Although I've seen people, even on the leaderboards, instead of Stone Gauntlets, they are running the Aquila Curios. But that's a little bit more difficult because it requires a lot of thresholds to be met with the resource cost reduction. However, it does give you that extra damage mitigation by 50%. But you really have to watch it. But with the bonus of this, you know, we should go over this effect real quick. So the 2-piece set bonus from the new Aegis of Valor, because this has been changed. So attacking with Fist of the Heavens empowers you 11 Heaven's Fury to deal 100 increased damage for 5 seconds. That's the stack that I was talking about where we're building that up. And that's multiplicatively. And then the 4-piece bonus, hitting with Fist of the Heavens, returns 5 Wrath and reduces damage taken by 1 second for 10 seconds, stacks up to 50 times, which we mentioned and showed off before. And then with the 6-piece bonus, that's just 20,000 multiplier over there. But again, this could fill up a little bit if you do want to go ahead and try to theory craft with the Zeiss Stones. Again, you're not getting that bonus damage with Zeiss that often, but it's more so just to proc that stun, so you can potentially not need to run this and you can run something else. But again, that's just for some extra theory craft. But if you guys have any suggestions on how to change up this build, pretty much this is the meta build. And I already gave you guys like a T16 build as well, just again swapping those two different skills for extra mobility at the end of the day. But yeah, that is the build for the Aegis of Valor Crusader new build, which is kind of like an old build because it's basically a Heaven's Fury build at the end of the day. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you did, drop a like on it. And if you are new here and want to see more Diablo as well as other gaming content, hit the subscribe button, turn that bell, and you'll see some more very soon. But thanks for tuning in. Have a good one. And I'm curious to know what you guys are playing in Season 19. Originally, I was going to be playing Barb, but now I think I'm going to be rocking Crusader. But I want to try to swap up this build. I'm going to do a LOD block proc build, which is something I might upload later down the line if you guys want to see that. But it's a little bit different than the Heaven's Fury build. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a good one. And I'm signing out. Peace.